please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, General Wittman, thank you so much for joining us today. I wanted to begin by talking a little bit about what has been identified through almost a 20-year period as being a dysfunctional civilian command structure there at Arlington National Cemetery. And I guess the question is this, knowing that there has been this dysfunction there, why did that continue? Why was there continued, lack of response by the Army or lack of an effort to try to fix that dysfunction there with the civilian command? Is it something that the Army control structure wasn't set up to be able to do or to identify or to respond to that? Or can you give us some idea about how that was allowed to continue to occur and for that dysfunctional organizational structure there to continue?
I wish I had all the answers to that, Congressman. A lot of this is conjecture. We're talking back to 97, 92, so well over a decade, and a lot of the people who were directly involved are gone. I will say this, there is no excuse why it happened. It was unacceptable then as much as it is now, and part of the way forward for us is to try to restructure this organization writ large so it doesn't occur again. And I have taken, I think, an important step in doing that in rescinding General Order 13. As I mentioned earlier in my comments, I think that there was real confusion amongst the various agencies, be it CW or be it Military District of Washington and others, as to who had exact oversight authority. Well-intended, but in my judgment, not well-written general order was a part of that. I think it's important to note, though, that there were at least some attempts to address this issue, obviously not effectively enough. But I would defer to the Inspector General to kind of walk you through the responses that were taken, at least as we've been able to discover them. Again, not to justify any of this, but just to kind of fill out the picture.
Okay.
Yes, sir, Congressman, you're exactly right. What was identified in 1992 was a complaint by an employee that talked about the command climate, the management style at Arlington. In 1997, when the MDW, the Military District of Washington Inspector General, was directed by the Commanding General of MDW to do a organizational command climate assessment, that was further uncovered. A leader has several options once they discover a dysfunctional unit. You can counsel the individuals, you can discipline them, and you can ultimately relieve them if it's serious enough. There is evidence that the Commanding General of MDW in the general 1992 time frame, a different general officer, did in fact counsel the superintendent and deputy superintendent. There is also evidence that after the 1997 inspection and assessment, the new CG at MDW did the same thing, counseled them. Don't know what the written record was of that counseling, what the results are. There is no indication with either the Department of the Army Inspector General complaints or requests for assistance or with the MDW IG that in the period from 1997 until the current time that there were complaints from employees requesting assistance due to the command climate. That started to surface in the 2009 directly to us. There was also a 1998 review of the 1997 assessment done again by the Military District of Washington Inspector General, and they went back in and looked at the areas that they had covered in the 96-97 time frame.
Okay.
And gave the CG an assessment. So there was some action.
Okay.
Apparently not the right action.
Okay. Very good. Mr. Secretary, one additional question. Are there remains in the 117 grave sites that don't have headstones? And if there are, have we identified those remains? And if we have identified those remains, what are we doing to honor those deceased?
The short answer to your question is we have found no remains. The 117 were map discrepancies, as described in the Inspector General's report. We have gone in and investigated 27 of those thus far, And in each one of those 27 cases, we found that the maps were inappropriately marked as having remains when our analysis, including digging into those sites, revealed that there were not. That doesn't assure that we won't encounter the circumstances you're concerned about, rightfully, in the future, but to this point we have not had to do that.
Not disagree.
Should we? Obviously, we're going to have to take a number of steps. Presumably, if the outside tagging is appropriate, we would contact the next of kin and make arrangements for appropriate and honored reinterment in concert with their wishes, of course, but we've not had to deal with that as yet.